Hi guys, Amanda Douglas here again with Celebration Title Group, kind of coming to you with our last check-in during the quarantine, kind of staying connected and what we can be a resource for you for. And definitely last but not least today, we have Krystal King. I thought it might be fun to wrap up the week with someone who can provide a lot of us moms that are in quarantine and doing the virtual learning and also working and running a business at the same time. Some guidance and advice. And Krystal has been homeschooling for 6 years, and she's also a realtor, so she kind of gets it from that perspective of we have a crazy life in the real estate world, and balancing virtual school. I think it's a little bit different, right? Because we didn't sign up for this, but you actually signed up for homeschooling. So you have some good plans and techniques that I'm hoping a lot of people can learn from today. So, Krystal, if you want to share your story and kind of how you started on the homeschool journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Amanda. So good to see you. Yeah, we've been homeschooling for about 6 years. There's definitely ups and downs of anything, but we really enjoy it. I think I've just been trying to remind moms or dads in this situation that this is really, while your kids are home, it's not per se homeschool the way that we planned it and kind of had preparation and time to wrap our heads around it and make, all the necessary things. That this is kind of, crisis schooling. And so I think, my biggest thing I've been telling people is just to go about it with so much grace, just know that your kids are out of sorts, you're out of sorts, and that, there's just a lot that goes into it. So, for the past 2.5 years, I've been running a real estate business in addition to homeschooling. And I think, the biggest thing that we struggle with is being flexible enough to get the schoolwork done and my work, in time constraints. So my best advice there is to try to pocket yourself times throughout the day that your, intentionality is to focus on school or on work. But kind of know that that may not, stay that way all day or every day. Sometimes it might have to look like you're schooling in the morning and working in the afternoon, or vice versa. So that flexibility is huge.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think, flexibility is something that everyone in real estate kind of has to have that flexibility cap on always. I think walk us through kind of what a day looks like for you, Krystal, and are there certain techniques, do you have a place in your house that is only schooling or a place in your house that's only work? And anything to kind of keep the kids busy during the meantime or anything from that perspective.
Sure. Yeah, we actually do have a homeschool room and I have an office. But honestly, Amanda, we don't use either one a ton. It ends up the kitchen table or it ends up the living room floor. And I'm sitting at my computer doing house searches and setting up showings. And, Xander's sitting next to me on another computer doing his math, and Riley's working on her Spanish, and we're kind of all in the same space. But I do have both of those spaces completely separate. We just find it almost makes it more difficult to go to the separate spaces, but like right now I'm in my office because I'm on a call with you, so I have those places to kind of escape to, and so do the kids if they need to, but we do a lot of stuff together. I think it helps the kids feel like, they're not doing school by themselves, even though I'm not really necessarily doing it directly. Funny, I had mine going earlier too.
The beautiful thing about live, my Roomba just showed up in the back. I was like, how did you mute it? Because it was so loud.
That's so
Of
funny.
course, it came in this room.
Funny. Yeah. So, I try to like be included with what they're doing, so I'm available if they need me. I feel like when I go in my office, especially for Xander, my 8-year-old, he'll be like, "Mom, I need you to be by me." well, you don't really need me to be by you, but you want me to be. So sometimes that's just enough, to make it work. And I can do a house search or follow up with leads next to him. I think what is a little different and took a lot of getting used to for me, because, my early degree was in early childhood education, and then I moved into child psychology. And so throughout that time, I kind of saw school as in traditional schooling. Now that I've been doing it at home for a lot longer, sometimes it needs to be 5 math problems, 15 jumping jacks, 5 math problems, a 10-second wall sit, whatever. Like Xander needs to be very interactive. And sometimes those little tiny breaks are just enough to not push him over the ledge. I try to be really cognizant of my frustration and theirs, because if either of those are happening, you're not really learning anyways. So I think, just the knowledge that it doesn't have to be sit down, get it done, like at school, because it's kind of not the same environment.
So just providing that structure and then having a little bit of flexibility. I know I have a very busy little one. So, well, he's not little anymore, but he's very busy. So that giving him the breaks and doing a couple push-ups or whatever you have to do to keep them active is so important.
Xander loves that. I mean, just that chance that if he gets 5 done, he can do 10 push-ups. That takes like 2 seconds, and then he jumps right back into his math. But it's almost something for him to look forward to do while he's doing it. So I think that's really helpful. And just the idea that, if I have a super busy day and like a lot of showings or, closings, things that are taking longer amount of time, some days those days don't have as much school. They might have more independent reading. They might have watch the National Geographic and give me 5 sentences. Might be a little bit less book structured, but they're still learning so much by doing things that they're interested in, or other tasks that you give them. So I think just remembering that, like if you have a day that you're like, wow, I literally got nothing accomplished, work or school, that's okay. Tomorrow you address it differently. And I think that's hard, especially for all of the moms that are used to them being in a structured school setting all the time, and so they feel like they need to meet that too. But you're not a school setting, your house is your home. So it's just a little bit different. I think it's really a mentality or a mind switch difference than really what you're doing, because you still want them to get their schoolwork done. I still require the kids to meet certain marks and to get things done. So just kind of the way you look at it, I think, can make it not seem so stressful.
Yeah. What sort of advice can you give, especially, mine are 12 and 14, and they're pretty self-sufficient for the most part. If they know what they have to get done for the day, and they kind of understand if they don't have it done, then they don't get to do those extra fun things that they want to do. But for the ones that have like little ones, and being able to explain to them, why they're home, or like why they have to do this stuff on the computer, like what sort of advice can you give them, those moms like that?
I think, again, it comes from the way you're presenting it. If you make it seem super fun and exciting and like, look what we get to do today, even if it isn't that exciting, kids feed off of that kind of stuff. And little rewards for them getting certain things done, or the ability to, it doesn't always have to be active. Some kids like to color, do one activity, then they get to color, then one activity. And, it does make for a longer day sometimes, but sometimes the idea that it was a more pleasant day is, more important to me, even if it takes a little longer to get it done, especially with little ones, because a lot of times once they kind of get past that ledge and are upset, then it's hard to bring them back. So just from my kids being smaller and doing homeschool with them. Xander has never been in a public or private school. Riley has done both, but Xander's always been home. So, just finding things to keep them occupied enough when you have other things going on. And sometimes that looks like, blocks at your feet. It's amazing how many buyers and, people in the industry or whatever, they really don't mind if your kids are kind of involved. Like my kids go on showings with me. Not right now, obviously, but in general, they're involved and people love that. I think it's kind of just finding a good mix that works for your kids, and then trying to run with that.
So just, being flexible with your schedule. It sounds like, I'm sure right now a lot of people understand that we have kids at home.
Right.
Any sort of advice you can give people understand a lot of people are having frustrations with the different applications that they're having to utilize that the schools have out. Any sort of additional resources they can go to and just really tap into that school system structure.
I'm honestly not really sure because we don't use the public school system at all. So I'm not sure what the requirements of what they're having to meet now. I do know that if the virtual school platform and those type of things are not working for a child at this point, they could withdraw their kids and say they're homeschooling, and then they wouldn't have to meet as many of those requirements. But I would definitely get with your counties on that, because I do all of our own curriculum and everything independently. So I don't use a virtual school at all. So mine's a little different than, what they're trying to do right now.
Right. One thing too that I've noticed is a lot of people are saying that it seems like the kids are getting their work done really quickly, right? Whatever work
Isn't that crazy?
I know, it's wild, but no distractions, right? When they're sitting down and getting the work done. So anything you can advise, again, probably those breaks, right? And letting them do those push-ups or whatever they want to do, or go take a walk. And but any other additional resources if parents really want to push their kids to continue to learn more resources you have online that you use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I hear from parents that are going into homeschool often, like not even, during this time, but just in general, they're like, what do you mean my first, second, third grader only needs 2 hours? They only need 2 hours. If they're getting their work done, they're getting it done. Riley's in 8th grade now, so hers is usually around like a 3 or 4 hour mark, but she's getting plenty in that time period. So I think just that little bit of mind, shift there, just the knowledge that it doesn't have to be 6 or 8 hours to, be like school, is helpful. It just takes some of that pressure off. But if you did want to, look into some new things, I was just talking to another realtor actually a couple days ago, and there's a program called OutSchool. There's a program called Power School. It's like a website that has a bunch of different kinds of classes. You can do like a one-time class, a month-long class, and it's usually different homeschool parents or someone in an industry, like a physics teacher or something like that, that does some type of class. And so my kids love those. They've learned a lot of really cool things, got into like photography and piano, and Riley took a genetics class. So those are always good. And that also takes pressure off of you teaching as the parent. You can stick them in a power school class or an out school class, and they just got another hour of something, academically or kind of academically related, that then they may want to take further. Riley's taking a coding class right now and learning different ways to make programs and use apps. Super cool, and so she'll sometimes take the class that takes about 30 minutes, and then she'll want to spend another 30 or 45 minutes trying it out. Well, I just like bought myself an hour. I can get a lot done in an hour. So I would say both of those are great platforms. And then, Netflix, YouTube, stuff like that. There's tons of great educational stuff on there that kids can, kind of find out what they like and don't like, and then try to find things to engage them with it. Xander loves baseball. So if I can find anything that has anything to do with baseball, he'll watch it. He'll be engaged in it. So, both of those I think are great platforms for people to utilize right now.
Yeah, I love that. So just like maybe picking up a new skill, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can do online, and YouTube is a beautiful thing to learn how to play piano or whatever they want to do.
Right.
They like actually taking time to be like, okay, let me find an instructor. Everybody's taking so many great things virtual, and like pivoting businesses like music teachers and things like that.
Yeah. There's a art class called McHarper Manor. It's a place, I think it's in Ohio. She's doing a great job doing a live class every day at 1:00. My kids have taken multiple of those over the past couple weeks. So, just go to Facebook for free classes, online art classes, things like that, and tons of stuff will pop up. And you can see what the kids kind of do it. I mean, that's when I'm working on following up with my leads, making my calls, those type of things, is to give them a project and set them on it, especially if you have kids like my age kids. One's a little bit older and can help the one that's a little bit younger. Task them with that, ask for their help. I'm always like, Riley, can you please help me out? I have to do this. And she's happy to do it. Sometimes you just have to, ask, help me out, and they will. So, I think just giving them a lot of responsibility to kind of occupy their time when it's necessary. It's different if you have a 3-year-old, but if you're a little older, we can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I know with mine, I'm like, now we're finally, I always thought I would make them do their own laundry, and now it's like I'm actually like making them sort it and do certain things. And like, this is like, what did we call that in school? Home economics class, where you're like,
absolutely, yeah, totally. Chores totally count.
So any little things you're doing around the house and getting the kids involved. I love seeing all the videos online of kids jumping in and helping with cooking, and that we didn't get to do with our kids because, again, we were always running from school to sports to all this crazy stuff. And now that we've actually had to stop and do things, they want to be involved. So
yeah. Absolutely. Riley loves to cook. I usually task her with that at least twice a week. Like, I don't care what you make, honey. Make whatever you want as long as it's in the kitchen. And, she'll come up with it, and it's great. So it's a skill, that she needs to know and that she's happy to help with. So I just think giving kids, a lot of responsibility for things that they really can accomplish, and it takes some time for them to get into those roles. But once they do, they run with it. It makes them feel good to be helpful. So
I think we keep talking about how this time is such a gift for us to work on ourselves and relationships and all that stuff. But really, it's a gift for the kids too, for them to develop and learn new skills and learn how to share with their siblings when they're not normally here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just think when this is over, our kids are going to be so excited for like the smallest play date, a trip to the park, before they'd be like, I want to go, I don't know, somewhere crazy. Now they're going to be like, the park's good. I'll do the park.
Right. Before it was like a, Universal and
right. Yeah.
Like, I just want to go with my friends somewhere, just anywhere.
I'll do anything.
That's so great. I didn't even think about that, but that's such a good thing to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your time today, and I know that everybody got something from this. I would love for kind of when we exit the broadcast, if you'll put those websites in the comments. 'Cause I know I'm definitely going to jump on those for my kids too, because I can't teach them coding.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea. All the apps Riley's been showing me, I'm like, I've never even heard of that, but that's awesome. She has like fish swimming through, the ocean and stuff. I'm like, that's cool. I can't teach it.
Yeah. So I always thought like those things you would do at like summer camps, and then they always get full. So that's really cool that there's those resources online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Krystal.
Thanks for having me. It was great to see you. You guys do well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.